Well, hello, educator friends, and welcome. We are right back here with episode 8 of the School Life series. Last week, we had the honor of having Allison Aspie as our special guest, and isn't she awesome? Allison is just a tremendous leader with so much heart and passion. She just is dedicated to seeing principals and teachers thrive. It's very obvious. So if you missed that episode, you will for sure want to go back and give it a listen. And today we have a current elementary principal with us. This guy right here just has so much energy, enthusiasm, and positivity. I love it. It's insane. It's also contagious. If you're around him, you will feel it in the air. So, Matt, like I said, is current elementary principal in South Carolina. And we'll let him share a little bit more about his role here in a minute. But he's also a great husband and a proud #girl dad.
That's
So
right.
Matt's doing big things in his school and in his district. So I'm excited. Thank you, Matt, for you're taking the time to come on today. I know you're going to share some strategies and methods with us that you're using in your school and your district and with other leaders across the country. So let's get started. Tell us about you. Who are
Yeah.
you as a person, as a dad, a husband, and all these things? Start personal.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Name's Matt, and I like to make sure everybody knows that I'm introducing myself as a husband, as a father, as a neighbor, as a son, as a brother, because I'm all of those things long before I'm an educator. I love what I do as an educator. I love who I am as an educator, but I'm proudest of the title of father, husband, friend, etc. And so, you know, I've really gone through my entire career as an educator with that in mind, that whomever I encounter, it's somebody. And that's the funny part, because most educators, they don't want to be educators when they first grow up. You hear a lot of stories about people that play with dolls and teach dolls, and they're
Yeah.
my line my class up. Our daughter does that now, and I love to see it. But for me, I always wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to have that lasting impact on, you know, especially pediatrics. And so but then I realized, wait a second, as a pediatrician, unless the kid is really sick, we had allergies, so we were always sick. So my opinion of the pediatrician was someone we saw a lot, but maybe twice, 3 times a year you would see them. And so if I really wanted to have a lasting impact, being an educator was really where it was at. And so, I'm currently in my 15th year in Greenville County down here in Simpsonville, South Carolina, but I spent a couple years up in Ohio. And so I'm a South Carolinian now, but I'm straight Midwest, Big Ten country, Ross.
That's right. No, big time Notre Dame fan. Love it. We can
Yes.
always talk Irish. I'm a Hoosier fan more, but you grew up an Indiana fan as well, so that's always cool that we have that connection. So you
It's
shared a
been a
little
hard
bit.
week for us
Yeah,
IU fans losing Bobby Knight, but
man.
grow up in
I
a Hoosier household. That man is sacred. So
Yeah, I remember just vividly growing up and watching him coach and watching my uncle and my dad, yell at the screen like they were Bobby Knight at times, yelling at the officials. But just growing up thinking, man, I'd give anything to play for Coach Knight. And I think that
yeah,
was just the theme for so many young basketball players when they were growing up. So yeah, it's been tough week in the Hoosier state. You shared a
yeah.
little bit, about your education journey, but let's dive a little bit more into that. So, which I thought this was interesting when I first met you, Matt. Where did you start your education journey, and what led you into administration?
Yeah. So, actually, the funny part was sometimes it's the benefit of who you know, not necessarily, how you get those jobs. But I graduated the Youngstown State where I went to college. Their program was a little unique in that it was really difficult to finish in 4 years just because of the amount of pre-service work you had to do. So I graduated in December. And so there was a local school district up in Ohio that needed a long term sub in third grade, and so I took that on, and then ended up staying on as a reading interventionist the following year. And then my wife Monica and I, who's also an educator, she and I moved to Greenville in '08, and I started as a kindergarten teacher, and I
Yeah,
absolutely loved kindergarten because I could act on my level. The reality is I'm like a 5-year old. So to just have fun all day and do voices and antics, and I'm not going to say I'm the funniest person in the room, but when you're surrounded by 27 5-year olds, I am definitely the funniest person in the room. So
absolutely.
it was good for ego, but it was more about having fun with kids. And I love the fact that I could launch excitement for students.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at an early age that really kind of, in my opinion, at least springboarded a love for learning. But
Yes.
10 years ago, actually, this week, I was asked to leave the kindergarten classroom mid-year and open a STEAM middle school here in the area as a program director, where my job was to build partnerships. And so I would go out and work with the private sector. And see, Greenville's really cool because BMW is local here and it's the only American plant. And so we have a lot of industry here. So we were able to form really cool partnerships with Michelin and, BMW and Sage Automotive and things like that. But what I found when I worked in middle school is by the time students came to middle school, they already lost the love of learning.
Yeah.
Because it had kind of been sucked out. Accountability hits in third grade, and all of a sudden the idea that you can be a kid still exists as long as you're a kid that passes a test. And it's just a really hard climate to work in. But when your job and my job and every other classroom teacher's job is defined by that score, it's really hard to not have that in the back of your mind. And so 5 years in middle school was enough for me, honestly, at that point. I didn't mind it. I love the relationships that I built with those kids. Here I was thinking a 5-year-old needed relationships with me. But when you're in that weird 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you're developing who you are, discovering who you are. That was really fun to be along the way and help, kids find who they want to be.
Yeah.
But I wanted to come back to elementary school, and I wanted to create a space where every 5th grader that left our halls was crying because they realized they were leaving behind a chapter of their life they'll never get back.
And they're leaving something special.
I wanted to create an experience where middle school sucked the fun out of learning, not elementary school.
Yeah.
And so, that's been my vision here at Bethel. I'm in my 5th year now, and every year we do more fun. This year's a video game theme. I'm actually rocking my school life swag right now.
Those are
it says
fun
Level
to
Up
put together
Cardinals,
for you guys.
that we just gave out to our students, and they love that along with some of the other
so that's awesome.
brag tags. But it's those fun things that kids look forward to. And so we have a rule here in our building where we don't ever make a decision in favor of adults at the expense of children. And we never make a decision in favor of children at the expense of adults.
Man, repeat that. That is powerful right there. Repeat that one.
You never make a decision in favor of children at the expense of adults. And you never make a decision in favor of adults at the expense of children.
Yeah, that's awesome. People need to hear that. That needs to be on the cover of buildings. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. One other thing, as you were talking, Matt, my wife teaches kindergarten. You guys talked a little bit about that this summer when we were together at the national conference, but she talks about this a lot. That first kindergarten experience is the first time students and parents have a experience in learning in school and what it will be like. And it's so important that in kindergarten we get it right as a school, as a teacher, because like you said, this can be the springboard where students love school. But on the other hand, it can be something where students dread school every day, right? And they don't want to come. So what kind of atmosphere do you want to create? What kind of legacy do you want to create as these kids go on, and for the parents as well? If you're an excellent communicator and your kids come home every day talking about how much they love kindergarten, then parents are on board, and they're on board for the next 6 years because of that experience. So I love that. Next question I have for you, Matt, I think I have a pretty good idea of this, but what type of principal are you? How would you describe the type of principal that you are?
So I am a principal who views himself as a teacher that was dumb enough to say yes to the principalship. And so I really try to keep that, that lens of, you encounter principals, and there's nothing wrong with a principal that operates that way, but that title is something that many people, aspire to and see it as like the pinnacle of their career. And so you're not chasing the work, you're chasing the title.
Yeah.
And we know that, it's the rule of thumb, like Todd Whitaker has said, if the principal has a cold, the building has a cold.
Yep.
People ebb and flow with the emotions of the leader. And so Bethel as a school sometimes, again, you're very fortunate at where you land. I was blessed enough to take over a principalship at a school that had a legacy of strong performance, strong climate and culture, strong leaders. And everybody would always talk about how warm the building was. But then when it was like, so point to me the things we do that make the building so warm. And that was the miss. The miss was being able to point to things. And so I said, well, we need to break down that barrier that avoids the separation between school and home, because we're all on the same team. It takes a village.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the first things we did, it was the first month I was there. Open house is one of those weird things that every school has to do, right?
Yeah.
The PTA has their meeting in early year,
Yeah.
but everybody's already done a meet the teacher. So attendance is typically low. I mean, you're talking maybe 100 families if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers get dressed up. It's held during dinner time, so it's hard for families to get there. The kids aren't supposed to come because there's a presentation, etc. So I said, well, let's work with our PTA. Let's do it as a membership drive, and we'll do burgers with the bald guy. And so our district has a giant tailgate trailer grill that can cook up to 80 hamburgers at one time. And so we brought that in, and I was in shorts and a t-shirt. The teachers were in shorts and t-shirts, and everybody just hung out in the parking lot. And in that first year, we had 600 people show up.
Yeah.
So it has become like the thing. My name now is just the bald guy. Like I don't have Mr. Critell. It's the bald guy. And so, but it was, people came over and was like, it's just so cool to just see you being like a dad with a spatula. It's essentially what you look like. You got your apron on and you're just a proud dad. But it's breaking down the fact that, again, I'm just Matt. Mm-hmm. You can call me Mr. Critell if you want to, but you can just call me Matt. It's totally fine. I don't, we're all here for the same reason. Right. And so, tearing down that border and allowing yourself to be silly is important. I dress like Elf on a Shelf every Christmas. I'm known for my crazy suits. The Level Up Mario suit for the first of the year. It was 100% polyester
media right now. So.
Yep. But it was hot. But, and it's one of those things of like, what do kids want? What do parents want? And what a parent wants is to know that their kid is happy, safe, and healthy. Mm. And so I need a parent to feel as good about the front door of our school as the front doorstep of their home. Mm-hmm. Because they spend more time Monday through Friday here in all reality than they do at home, because most kids go to sports or do practices for other things. They maybe sleep at home most days. If they're like our kids, you do tennis class, we come home, eat dinner, take a shower, they're in bed. They're not even awake in the home.
That's weekday grind. It is.
Yep. So it's about recognizing that I'm a person in the building, but I'm also somebody that views this place as a second home for me, and I care for it that way. If the bushes need cleaned, I'll clean the bushes, or I'll trim the bushes, or if the front drive needs blown off, I'll grab the leaf blower. I don't care. If we, I'll jump into classrooms and teach, because that's what I want to do, because I'm a teacher that is dumb enough to be a principal. There isn't a role in the building.
I think too, that models to the rest of the school, your students, the rest of your staff, this is our school, right? This isn't just some place we come to learn Monday through Friday. No, this is our school, and we're going to treat it like it's our home, right? One thing that you said that really resonates, I talk about that, for people that want to go in administration and they're chasing that title, like you said, they're just chasing it and they want to be a principal so bad. And they think as soon as I, become a principal and I get that master's degree or I get that first job, then people are going to automatically respect me because I'm the leader of the school. And that's not the case. It's simply not the case. But when you break down the barriers and you show people who you really are, and you lead with love, and you go out and you take the time to feed them, right? All these burgers you're putting on the grill, that's where the respect comes. That's when people realize how much you care. And that's when they're willing to, jump over hurdles and run through walls for you, because you're willing to do the same thing for them. So I love that you pointed that out.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? And so the core piece is, we're all people that hold different titles. And like I said, I'm more proud of the dad and the brother and the father and the son than I am of the principal. But that's the piece. If you live behind the shroud of a title, people never realize who you are. And that's one of the things that I tell a lot of aspiring assistant principals or leaders in general that want to be a principal is, look, you can either want the title or you can want the work. And if you want the work, then you want to do the work at a place that wants you,
Yeah.
not you, the professional, but you, the person, because I can go in and sell whatever type of person you want me to be for your location based on what, the rumor mill says. Well, they want this person to be fun, or they want this person to be detail oriented. Well, I can talk to you about a PowerPoint that I've given, but I
Yeah.
can also tell you a costume I wore. But for 190 days a year, I have to be whomever I told you I was in an interview. And
Mhm.
I can't be a fake version of myself for 190 days. It's
Yeah.
exhausting. And so the authentic person is going to fit where they fit. And if they don't fit where they don't fit, then they're not supposed to be there. Because
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
don't force something that doesn't need to be forced.
Yep. I love that. Being your authentic self. And it's going to allow you to love your job, love what you do, and really make an impact in what you're doing. So, man, we like to talk. Both of us like to talk, and I knew this would be the case. We may not get to every question, but one question that I really like, um, that I ask every time on these episodes is, who has influenced you in your life? Maybe both personally and professionally, or two separate people. You can answer that however you like.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a personal standpoint, I, I was fortunate to have two parents that were involved. And for my parents, they nurtured the value of, religion as being part of what you do in your home, being the family as the core, and recognizing that memories are created by the experiences, not the materials around them. And now, as a reflective piece, I realize I lived a life where I had everything I needed and most of what I wanted. Now, as a kid, when the Nintendo 64 came out on launch day and you didn't get it, you felt like they were horrible people.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I didn't need the Nintendo 64, but I was also the kid that if I outgrew a bike, I didn't have to wait for a birthday or Christmas, because my parents' opinion was a bike is just something a childhood should have.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of that level of recognize what is most important in your life and take joy in the small moments, and service to others. My dad, the joke was, every time we had a snowblower, and so in Ohio, when the lake effect snow bands would come through, he would snowblow the entire neighborhood, like, just because he could.
Yeah.
There were a lot of elderly or single parent households, so he would just snowblow everybody, and he didn't do it for money. Like, he just did it to be nice, or you checked on people. And so it was I was brought up in a home where you cared about the needs of others and making sure they were good. And I think that made me a better human. It made me recognize
Yep.
the importance of the people around me.
I love that. I love that. And you could look back now and you just see how grateful and thankful that you are that you were raised by people like that. In the moment, like you said, maybe you didn't always feel it, but you look back and you see the values, and you see how difficult it is. Right? We're both dads, and
Right.
parenting is not easy. And sometimes it's easier just to give in instead of showing the real value or teaching the lesson along with it. So I'm the same way. I'm so grateful for my parents and everything that they instilled in me, and continue to do so to this day. But it's special. So, next part here, man. So you've seen these episodes. I call this the open floor. You've already shared a ton of expertise and wisdom, which I really appreciate while you're on here, obviously. But let's take, however much time that you want. And I just want you to share some of your expertise. Obviously, you're a great leader. You're a great principal. You're great at motivating your students and staff.
Yeah.
You're a
I
community
mean,
leader. All these things, but you
I,
choose. This is totally up to you.
yeah, I mean, I think, the piece that I really enjoy is seeing people recognize the strengths in themselves that maybe they didn't recognize existed, or
Hmm.
recognizing that listening to people at the primary entry point of conversations is more important than trying to figure out what they're telling you in the moment. And so teacher voice is a huge part of why I think our school is successful, because we all value each other's input. We recognize that for us as leaders and principals specifically, we sit in a really hard spot where oftentimes we're charged with making decisions that we don't live in.
Yeah.
And so I am completely comfortable to say that while I lead Bethel, our teachers run the school because they're the ones that live within the decisions. And so,
and real quick, Matt, and good for you to have the confidence to be able to say that, because I think a lot of principals are scared to say, hey, I'm gonna let these teachers run this school because this is their school, right? But
yep.
you have the confidence, and it takes intentionality and just a collaborative work
And it
environment to
has to
build
be able to
that.
point back to, so what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
So it's that, I don't know how to put it. Like, there are teachers that run the school where it's like, if they want to come into work an hour late every day, the principal doesn't say anything. Well, the teachers run the school. But in
Yes.
terms of ours, you can look at the logistics and see actual policies and procedures that are reflective of teacher needs and
Mhm.
student needs. We live in the world of needs and wants. And so a want would be wonderful, but a need has to happen. And so
Mhm.
we need teachers that feel good in their space. We need teachers that feel like when the students come to their rooms, they get their time. And so it's recognizing the difference between negativity and critical feedback.
Mm.
And I
Good.
think, again, to your point, it's very hard for leaders to stay humble and not feel attacked in everything,
Yeah.
not feel like anytime somebody makes a comment, it's meant towards negativity. And see, my first couple of years here, you're still feeling everything out and figuring out schedules and things like that. And we're very fortunate. We have a lot of different support programs between reading and math intervention. We have the challenge programs for high achievers. We have the special ed programs for students that need additional support. But when all of those schedules don't synchronize,
Mm.
we ran into a situation where some teachers only had their entire homeroom of 20 to 25 kids for 30 minutes a day. Well, how do you build continuity of a homeroom community, let alone instruction, when that happens? And so over the course of like 3 to 4 months in the end of my first year, which was the COVID, like 1920 year, and the next year, 2021, we started to hear conversations from teachers just saying, my pacing is off because I don't have all of our students for more than 50 minutes at a time, or I don't have this. They weren't complaining. They were simply stating facts. But
Just reality. Yeah.
us as leaders had to sit back and reflect and say, so this is the seventh teacher that has come aboard and said, this isn't working. And so we were able to realign some pieces and create a schedule where now, whether it's kindergarten through fifth grade, our students, regardless of the service models that they need, everybody's believing at the same time. And so while there's multiple students getting services that could equal to 30 minutes, 45, or an hour, it's all within an hour time block. And so now the teachers use that time with their middle of the road kiddos to give
Yeah.
additional support, review, but no new instruction is happening.
Yeah.
And
They
so it's
almost
benefiting
a,
all learners.
a small group tiered instruction of their own to, I call that the 60%, right? The majority of the students.
Yep.
But it becomes a small group setting. That is not easy to do, and that takes a lot of work and hours, and probably you probably lost some hair through that process.
Yeah. Oh, the last bit I had left. And so, that was a product of trusting our teachers, not that they were coming at us with excuses for instructional gaps or, reasons as to why things didn't go as we hoped they would go. They were legitimate needs. And our teachers have built a firm foundation that they trust us. They trust that if they come to us, we're going to see it at the true level, not at a surface defensive level. And I think that makes a big difference in how you, again, to the term run a building. You want to run a building with a staff that feels confident in their decision making, but more importantly, feels confident that administration views them as experts, because the only way you're going to keep teachers committed to the work is when they feel like they hold value in an organization and they see the value on their return on investment. And our student achievement is a huge indicator of that. So, again, do I lead the school? 100% with pride. But do I run the school? I would say when I have to, but for the most part, it comes from our teachers because they know better than I do. They're the eyes and ears of the building. They live and breathe it daily.
Yep, they see the needs. I love that. I would always say, in my principalship, I'm gonna trust you as a professional because I'm gonna let you be the professional that you are. And I think when we start looking at teachers not as professionals, that's when we lose the relationship and the trust and the respect, and you can't have impact and effects like you're having at Bethel because you're not treating your teachers that way. So good for you, man, for doing that, and leading your building that way, because it's paying off, and that's obvious. And now not only do you have great teachers and great students, but you have results. All right, and it's funny how that all
Right.
pieces together into the puzzle. You're not just doing things; it's all intentional. It's all part of that process, and so success comes from it, and it's working for you guys, which is great to see. So, thank you for sharing some of that expertise. And I think principals, especially educators, need to hear that. And so, if you're an educator listening, and maybe you're not leading in this way, reach out to Matt, and he would be happy to help. Or if you're a teacher listening, and you're in a building that's not being ran that way or led that way, then reach out and let's talk. Maybe you need to have some difficult conversations with the principal, or maybe your principal needs to have conversations with us, because our goal, I know you and I both agree with this, we want this to happen across the country, right? And that's why we're doing the work that we're doing, because like you said, was it safe, happy, and healthy? Right? I say safe, loving, and engaging, and it's needs to be across the country in every school, and it's not right now, unfortunately. And so we want to see it happen. So on that note,
Well,
as
and
we
it's hard too
go ahead.
because, yep. Oh, I was just going to say, I think it's hard for us as leaders, but also as teachers, when we talk to leadership, we have to keep the emotions at the door,
Mhm.
because when we let the emotions get into it too much, at least in those initial conversations, we lose the value of what's being shared. We
Yes.
both have to be protective and aware of our emotions in
Yeah.
those moments.
Right. The wall, and the motions come in, the wall goes up. Right. And then would
Yep.
neither side truly hears the other one, because the wall's up, because we're so scared because emotions are involved now. Right. And it goes back to doing what's
Yep.
best for kids. Put the walls down, check the emotions. What can we do? What's best for kids here? And great things will happen. So as we start to wrap up here, I try to keep these right at 30 minutes, and we're getting close. You've given a lot of advice already, but it is no secret that the education system, educational field, is hurting right now, for teachers and educators, and we have educators leaving the profession and just frustrated in the profession, and we don't have young people coming out of high school and going into the profession, and I would say, we're teetering on a crisis, that's for sure. So, what advice do you give to educators, whether maybe they're a freshman in college or a 25-year vet? What could you say? Keep them going.
Find your people. Don't chase a job. Chase the environment that is best for you. There are people that would never want to work for a principal like me, and there are other people that would love to work for a principal like me and where my mission and vision sit. And the reality is, I'm by no means the perfect principal, but
Yeah.
for some people I am. And that's the same for your schools. That's the same for your students. Don't force anything, because you're spending, again, more time than these students' families do with them on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. And it has to be natural. You
That I
have to be
love that.
natural.
And
If
it's
a
not fair
strategy
to you.
doesn't feel natural to you, do
Yep,
it.
I love it. It's not fair to you, your mental health, your family, whatever, if you are in a situation where you're not with your people. So, I love that. Thank you, Matt. And then what advice would you give to students, whether it's your kindergarten class or your middle schoolers? What advice do you like to give to students?
You need three friends in this world, but you need to be kind to everybody. Stop chasing the friendships of 100. Focus on the three that make you the best version of yourself and stick with them. Because if anybody wants to make you do something you wouldn't do in front of your mama, they ain't your friend.
Wow, that is great. That is a mic drop. Do we need to give credit? Is that like that sounds like a powerful quote from somebody, but right there, Matt Critell. Cool. Well, yeah, we are going to end on that because neither one of us are going to top that in this conversation. But you got anything else, Matt, you want to share, say before we get off here?
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing for education. It's positive. And guys, I will say this is a school life podcast, and so it's not a shameless plug when I talk about how cool the response has been for those brag tags. We're getting really creative now on what we can do for students because as much as it is to talk about the good of the work that is done, kids love swag, and this swag is way cooler than a smelly eraser that we used to have to reach in our grab bags for. So the kiddos love them. It's
Awesome.
cool.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I did not tell you to share that or anything. It's not a shameless plug. Um, but yeah, I love seeing the difference that it's making in your school and schools across the country. And kids love them, staff, adults love them as well, and it really can make an impact in your school. So thanks again. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Appreciate all that you do for me, and just thankful to be able to call you a friend. So thank you to all of our listeners out there. I hope that this week finds you making an impact, doing great things, and if not, get out there and be great today. Thank you.